Here's the thing that I got wrong is I didn't know. This was all press I was doing for Unfrosted. I did a bunch of it, and I enjoyed all of it. I did not know that people care what comedians say. That literally came as news to me. I don't think as I said, the extreme left has done anything to inhibit the art of comedy.
Right.
I'm taking that back now officially.
Gotcha.
They have not.
So that is Jerry Seinfeld. He's on the Breaking Bread with Tom Papa podcast, and he is in some ways amending prior comments he's made, and in other ways sort of denying that he made the comments. As many of you are probably aware, a number of years ago, he had said things that either rightly or wrongly led people to believe that he was saying that the left had killed comedy or hurt it or was holding it back. Why don't we just go to a little bit of the comments he actually made at that point to New Yorker Radio.
It used to be you would go home at the end of the day. Most people would go, oh, Cheers is on. Oh, MASH is on. Oh, Mary Tyler Moore is on. All in the Family's on. You just expected there'll be some funny stuff we can watch on TV tonight. Well, guess what? Where is it? Where is it? This is the result of the extreme left and PC crap and people worrying so much about offending other people. Now they're going to see stand-up comics because we are not policed by anyone. The audience polices us. We know when we're off track. We know instantly, and we adjust to it instantly. But when you write a script and it goes into 4 or 5 different hands, committees, groups, here's our thought about this joke, well, that's the end of your comedy.
Okay, to be fair, that last thing that he describes has nothing to do with PC culture. That sounds like the studio process, I guess. But anyway, you comment in 1 sec. I just want to say I like his most recent comments. He seems to have either responded to the criticism or maybe he's thought about it more. Because his prior comments that it's PC crap, that's why there's nothing funny on TV anymore. That's not my experience. I watch a lot of TV, probably too much, and I find quite a bit of it to be funny. I'm 2 episodes into the franchise right now. I think it's really funny, actually. There's a lot of good, funny shows on TV, so it didn't make a lot of sense. And like people like Julia Louis-Dreyfus have commented about that recently. And so, Brett, you are a comedian. What do you think about what he's saying now, what he had said then?
So I think that when you are focused when you're watching something, and you're focused on the statement it's making and whether it helps your side's politics, it's not that it's not funny. It's that it doesn't get to be funny. It's not in the sandbox Jerry Seinfeld has lived in since he was born. It's something else. And that something else can be good or bad, but it's not comedy, you see. And you know the difference when you're watching a comedian and you're like, yeah, that's not because it was funny. That's what I was talking about. Forwarding your thing. If you have, and Jerry Seinfeld and all the comedians who aren't on the back foot, and I'll talk about that in a second. Jerry Seinfeld, when he's doing comedy, is just simply looking for the funny thing. And doesn't matter. And that is the animal that comedians are. Good comedians. Comedians that when you're like, why am I not laughing as much as this comedian as I normally do? Roseanne, sometimes when I'm watching like political stuff by Seth MacFarlane, like you're just like, yeah, but do the funny man be funny thing. That's pure comedy. You can do, there's such great need for comedians to be able to tell jokes about whatever right now. And for audiences to stop with this. Stop waiting until someone steps out of bounds. I don't care who you are, and I'm not talking to either side of the aisle right now. But if you're watching a comedic show and you're tense like that, waiting to see if they'll go out of bounds, you're not a good audience. And you're probably physically unhealthy the more you do that. And it's not all your fault. What you're like the way you interact with media now, with social media, it is a lot of that. And it's designed to make you more like this. And it's not really your fault. But why we need comedians and why we need comedy clubs is for people to go in, like watch a Shane Gillis comedy special. And you will watch like Bill Burr does it, Louis C.K. before, notwithstanding his horrible behavior. you'll watch basically the comedic version of that scene in Entrapment where Catherine Zeta-Jones dances through, like makes her way through the laser beams. And that's so needed now. That catharsis of just telling a joke that is the joke, that unlocks all this and gets a laugh that wasn't expected. That's what he's talking about. Now, the same way that audiences get like
that there's
this,
like not sitcoms, I guess. There's not funny shows anymore, which is really a criticism of comedians.
The difference between Barbie and Strange Earth. The difference, there's tons of like, if you're doing it well, it doesn't matter how woke it is or non-woke, anti-woke. If it's good, it's good. If it's so overtly doing the, like carrying a banner for anything but being good, then you have things like it's too on the nose. The stuff he's talking about, obviously he's not right about it. There's plenty of good comedy like you're talking about, but there's so much that's so on the nose because there's things that are wrong with the studio system where you get like execs, and now I'm a freaking exec and I hate it, but like you get execs that are like, we have to have a quota of X, Y, or Z, whether it can't be this woke, it has to be that woke, and why am I saying woke? That's what poisons it rather than like, is it good? That's what he's talking about. But the same way that audiences get like this, performers get like this when they have a bad experience. And so Jerry, when he said that first thing, he'd had a bad experience, and he wasn't funny at that point. He wasn't doing the funny thing. That's the opposite of what he would himself, and what he came to realize later. That's not what he's for. He did a thing he wasn't for, and he's trying to get back to the thing he's for. That's it. And Roseanne does the same thing where she's like, she got wronged in her mind, even though the audience just didn't like the jokes. And now she's not being funny, she's being angry. And that's not funny. That's not what a comedian does.
It can be possible that there can be backlash for things. It can also be possible that the fact that backlash is hypothetical is an easy mental out when your comedy doesn't work. For some
backlash does exist. Like everybody's in denial.
But that's not saying that everyone who doesn't succeed or doesn't get a laugh is because of backlash or whatever. Sometimes it's just not funny. And as you said, you weren't, focusing on one side. I'll say, like, the critique that you're making, someone could make it perfectly honestly. It also could be a thing where there could be comedians whose whole thing is just invoking that and delivering the exact inverse image of that for the other side. But again, we'll have to have the conversation more another time.
And comedians would say that person's not funny.
Some might.
No, I'm saying if you say that person is funny, you're not a comedian. And that person isn't a comedian, they're a proselytizer.
Sure, they might not be a comedian under your definition, but they could have been paid very well for a Netflix special or whatever.
We're now speaking the same language.
Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.